Are you ready to hear an inspirational hero tale about one of our four-legged friends? My name is Kim, and this is Harry Hero Tales. Welcome to episode 5 of Harry Hero Tales, Animals to the Rescue. I'm your host, Kim Hagel. This episode will bring into sharp focus, more than any previous episode has, what the ultimate motivation for this podcast is. While it's definitely to share the amazing stories of four-legged heroes and celebrate their bravery and their devotion, which certainly enriches our lives, this podcast is focused on inspiring the love, care, and, as much as possible, the adoption of animals in need of a good home. And this episode shares an amazing story of an adopted pet directly contributing to saving his family from a very dangerous situation. Today, I'll be sharing the story of a hero named Edgar. We don't have to go too far into the past to tell this story, because this story actually begins in 2019 in the town of Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. This town is not too far from Gettysburg. Waynesboro is in the southern part of Pennsylvania, near the border of Maryland. In fact, Union troops passed through Waynesboro on their way north prior to the Battle of Gettysburg during the United States Civil War. And Confederate General Robert E. Lee traveled through as he retreated south after the battle. A small town of little more than 10,000 people today, Waynesboro is primarily an industrial town of manufacturers of engines, boilers, and the like. So only a few months prior to the incident that is at the heart of this story, a local Waynesboro family of 5 called the Lamberts, they spent time occasionally visiting a nearby humane society to play with the dogs and cats and animals available there for adoption. Now, this young family had 3 small little girls at the time. They were aged 3, 6, and 8 years old. The Lamberts, clearly a kind and certainly animal-loving family, and this is demonstrated by their frequency to take time out to visit the Humane Society and play with the animals. In my opinion, this is not something most people do. So while they had their busy lives and their hands full with 3 little girls, they did ultimately decide to open their home to a rescue. Their choice of which dog seems to have been a very good one. Edgar, our hero, is noted in some reports I found as a hound mix. Now, in looking at photos I was able to find, I agree with other comments. And he does look like a hound mix. In fact, to me, he looks like a coon hound. In one report I found, he was actually described a little more specifically as a tree-walking coon hound. Now, a male tree-walking coon hound is typically between 50 and 70 pounds, and these were originally bred as a hunting dog primarily to hunt raccoons, which seems to explain their name. Officially, they were not recognized as a breed by the American Kennel Club until 2012, so not that long ago. Edgar has short hair, longish ears, not like some hounds, but they're definitely long. He has red with white and some black spots. So if you look up the coonhound, it's very typical coloring of the breed. In researching Edgar's background, I found a reference to Edgar actually being noted as unadoptable at some point. And this was when he was at a rescue somewhere in West Virginia. Now, it's not clear why, but he must have shown some signs of aggression. Some of the reports I found, he had been a street dog at that time, or at the time he was brought in. He likely had issues with anyone near his food or anyone reaching towards his food bowl. This is supposition on my part, but if he was noted as unadoptable, any rescue organization conducts tests to determine the safety of adopting out a dog, and at least in West Virginia at that time, he was noted as unavailable. By the time he was in Waynesboro Area Rescue, however, things had clearly changed. Likely some very knowledgeable and trained people worked with him and began to build trust, and he started to see people as safe. Ultimately, he learned to relax clearly around people. So while visiting the Humane Society, Edgar must have shown his true self, which was kind and loving. It's unclear exactly what he did or how he had responded to the family, the Lamberts, when they were checking out the available dogs that day, but he was able to win the heart of Mr. Lambert and his family. Tom Lambert and his wife Melissa selected Edgar to join their home as a result, and they brought him home to live with their 3 little girls. Now, within just a few months, Edgar proved to be the perfect choice for his young family. The Lamberts, having to travel the weekend of April 26, 2009 for an out-of-town funeral, arrived home very late on Sunday morning, April 28th. Putting their daughters to bed after 1:20 a.m., the Lamberts went to sleep themselves. Soon after, with Edgar laying on his bed in their bedroom, which is where he typically slept. About 2 hours later, so around 3:45 a.m., Tom Lambert was awakened by a strange noise coming from Edgar. Typically a very lovable and non-aggressive dog during all the time he had spent with the Lamberts up to that point and with their 3 small children, Edgar was growling. Describing the situation later to reporters, Lambert said, "Edgar is normally a very sweet dog. He never gets angry. I knew something was wrong because he seemed very angry." Obviously concerned, but wanting to quiet Edgar before he woke his still sleeping family, Lambert calmed the dog enough to stop him from growling and barking, which he had also started to do. And once Edgar had quieted, Lambert was able to make out another sound. And this one truly frightened him. So what sounds Lambert could make out alerted him that there was an intruder in the house. He was hearing footsteps. Telling his wife, who was awake by then, to avoid making any sound, Lambert immediately checked on his children. Finding them safe and still asleep, Lambert called 911 to report that there was a possible break-in in progress. Lambert later described to news media what took place when police arrived. They checked every room, but found no evidence of anyone still in the house or apparently of any intruder ever having been there. Some reports I found seemed to indicate they may have thought it was a tired family after a long trip, or just a sensitive dog with nothing of concern for police to follow up on. But I did find reports that Tom Lambert actually had noticed evidence of someone being in the home. An open window and a door being left open, which was a frightening sign, given what he had heard and what happened not far from where they lived just a few days earlier. Everything made sense just one day later. On April 29th, a local man named Thomas DeWald was arrested for abducting a 4-year-old girl in the same neighborhood as the Lamberts. Literally, this abduction took place just down the street. Now, how this predator was caught is also a story of incredible courage and, quite frankly, smarts. The 4-year-old he abducted had been taped up and left by him in I've seen it described as a wooden box, or it was also described as a chest, under his bed. So she was taped up in this wooden box under his bed. When DeWald left to go to work, this very smart little girl managed to escape and ultimately tell authorities enough details that they were able to identify who had done this to her. Now, while in police custody, DeWald confessed to the abduction. But there was more. DeWald also confessed to prowling the neighborhood for other victims and that he had been in other homes looking for children. When he described one such break-in, something about it rang alarm bells for authorities because it sounded an awful lot like the possible break-in at the Lamberts. His description of the home confirmed he had been in that house. DeWald stated he had made entry into the Lamberts' home through a downstairs window by the kitchen. He had made his way to the stairs and began to climb them, but what stopped him from going further and seeking any of the bedrooms, especially those of his intended targets, the 3 little girls in the house? According to DeWald, he heard the angry growls and eventually frantic barking of a dog within the home. Frightened away from doing whatever his intended action was in that home, DeWald ran off, probably leaving that door ajar that the Lamberts found wide open. It appears DeWald actually may have made entry into multiple homes during the course of a week, according to his confession, with the 4-year-old being the only known victim. But thanks to Edgar, he was unsuccessful at even reaching the Lambert children's room. Edgar was described later to reporters by Tom Lambert, quote, "He's just the biggest goofball ever. And of course, that would save our children's lives," end quote. The Lamberts now are definitely grateful for this lovable goofball who, after only a few months in their home, had himself adopted them as his pack and stepped up to protect them from danger. Now, what ultimately happened to the perpetrator who had very nearly reached one of the Lambert little girls? DeWald was ultimately found guilty on all charges related to kidnapping, attempted kidnapping, burglary, false imprisonment, unlawful restraint, criminal trespassing, and reckless endangerment. He is currently serving a life sentence. And Edgar, hailed by his family as a hero and by this podcast, Edgar was ultimately honored by his family with a request. Tom Lambert first had this to say: "Without Edgar, genuinely, who knows where our daughters would be right now? Our family was 100% rescued by our dog that we rescued." Now the request? Lambert then encouraged anyone looking for a pet to consider adopting a rescue. And I couldn't agree more. What a great way to honor our hairy hero, Edgar. So anyone listening and considering getting a family pet of any kind, please check out your local rescues and humane society. Or visit our website, hairyherotales.com. There are 2 links on our website, one for the All-American Dachshund Rescue and the French Bulldog Rescue Network. You could rescue a hero of your own. While that only touches the surface of this amazing hairy hero, we have to leave it there for this episode. If you know of a great hairy hero tale and would like to hear it on this podcast, email us at hairyherotales@gmail.com. For more information on this program, visit our website, www.hairyherotales.com. That's TAILS.com. And be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you get your podcast. This is a Southpaw Productions podcast, edited, produced, and hosted by me, Kim Hagel. Opening and closing music provided by Mary Selvage. Be sure to follow her on Instagram at Selvage613 for her live show schedule, and check out her complete catalog of music available on Spotify, Apple Music, and more. And remember, there are hairy four-legged heroes all around us. Who knows, you might even adopt one. I've adopted many little heroes from some amazing animal rescue organizations, and I've featured 2 on my website: the All-American Dachshund Rescue and the French Bulldog Rescue Network. If you are looking to rescue your next hero or would like to help with transport or financial support, I highly recommend both of these organizations. Neither are affiliated with this program in any way, but both have my sincere gratitude and support. Thank you to all the heroes of the world, and a special shout out for hairy heroes everywhere.